22 News Plus studio. This is 22 News in Focus with Patrick Berry.
Good day, everyone, and welcome to this edition of In Focus. I am your host, Patrick Berry, and today I am joined by the Executive Director of the Holyoke Housing Authority, Matthew Mainville. And today we're going to learn a little bit more about what a local housing authority does, because if you're like me, I have no idea what they do. So, Matt, thank you very much for joining me today.
I appreciate you having me, Patrick.
So let's start. What does a local housing authority do?
So at a very basic level, obviously, housing is right in the name. We provide long-term rental to folks. But I like to think about it at a deeper level is that we actually help people. Our primary mission is to help folks in need. And I think that's kind of the main thing of what we try and get across.
So for those folks in Holyoke that need a little help finding a place to call home, how do you get them in those four walls?
Yeah, it's an application process. It's pretty prescripted process. You can come online at our webpage. You can come into 475 Maple Street. And so there's two ways to apply, both online and in person.
Okay. Are there requirements that people need to meet, whether it's income high or low, or a quantity of family members, education level? I mean, I have to imagine, well, actually, I shouldn't say that. Do you have to previously be a Holyoke resident, or can, like me who lives in Holyoke, or lives in Westfield, and I'm moving to Holyoke, could I seek help?
Absolutely. There is one prescribed thing that you have to have. You have to be low to moderate income to apply for housing through the Holyoke Housing Authority. You have a preference if you are a person that lives in Holyoke or works in Holyoke. If you live in a neighboring community, you still can apply. You have a less preference, but you absolutely have every right to apply. And quite frequently, we see people that apply for Holyoke housing that are from the eastern part of the state. So it's a very common practice, actually.
So people apply for housing in Holyoke from the eastern end, but for one reason or another, they've decided to move west.
Yeah, I think that it's a really desperate time in housing in the Commonwealth.
Across the state.
Across the state. The Donahue Institute just did a study a couple of years ago.
What's the Donahue Institute?
It's at UMass Amherst.
Okay.
And they did a housing study of the Pioneer Valley, and they recognized that there's a lack of 11,000 housing units just in the Pioneer Valley.
So that means, there's a lack of 11,000. So meaning there are 11,000 people or families that just don't have a place to live.
To meet the current demand, we would have to produce 11,000 units of housing.
So there's organizations like yours, and I'm assuming most towns have a housing authority.
Correct.
But is there help coming from the state? Do you get help on the state level to help create housing, to kind of bridge that 11,000 gap?
Yeah, so we're lucky enough to be in a position where we both get funding from the state to help subsidize our rental operations, but also provide us funding to do development. And so we are a little bit unique in the fact that as a housing authority, we do construction and development on a fairly regular basis.
So part of your role is developing new places for people to live. Now, how do you do that? Are you like rehabbing old buildings? Are you starting from the ground with foundations and walls, or a little bit of everything?
Exactly. We've done it both ways. One of our developments, for example, was constructed in 1939. It was called Lyman Terrace, and really had the curse of durability. It was long lasting, but didn't meet current standards. And so in that particular case, we rehabbed it. But in other instances where the city of Holyoke has a large number of vacant parcels, we're able to partner with them, get those parcels, and then do construction.
It's interesting, the opportunities that I've had with my roles here at 22 News, marching in the St. Patrick's Day parade. We've gone through Holyoke, and then we've hit the finish line, for lack of a better description, and then the bus usually picks us up down by the canals. And I'm rarely down in that area. There are some beautiful, what look like new converted row houses.
Absolutely.
From the old industrial era.
Exactly. I think Lyman Terrace is down in that area. I know that there's a really nice development called the Cubit, where they worked with Holyoke Community College, but also put livable units above the Holyoke Community College space. And so, yeah, there's a lot of activity down in that part of the world. It's exciting to see it happen because those canals are really an asset to the city of Holyoke.
Oh, I mean, they're iconic.
Yeah, absolutely.
So how long have you been in your role, and if it's been a while, what have you seen as the really major changes from maybe when you first entered public service to where you are today?
Yeah. And so I've been in the position I had a lot more hair when I started. Let's put it that way.
You and me both.
Yeah. And so I think one of the things is that there's a more conscious recognition of the fact that there's a huge need for housing. The current administration and the administration before really, it's on the state level, really recognize that and put assets towards, the production of housing and the preservation for existing public housing. Because if
Right.
we are building on one side and then we're letting buildings that are currently public housing go by the wayside, then it's a zero sum game. And so they're both recognized, both things need to happen.
What is there anything you over your time you wish you were able to have accomplished and just for whatever reason, stumbling blocks, whether it's
Yeah.
local level, state level, just weren't able to get there?
I think the only thing I would say is that I wish the time frame and the speed of which you're able to do
You're
development
working with the government, man.
could happen faster.
Right.
And so from first hatching of an idea around a development activity to actually putting it in place is long. And unfortunately, when you recognize that there's this huge demand out there and people are clamoring for housing,
The
you
longer
wish you
this
could do it.
the longer this process waits, the more time people are on the streets, they're couch surfing
Exactly.
or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
So how do you get over that hurdle? How do you I mean, do you work with your locally, state representatives, state senators to try and,
Yeah.
kind of get the Beacon Hill to move faster?
I think both. We're always constantly talking about what streamlining could happen in the local approval process and on the state side. And then I think the other thing that we're lucky enough to have accomplished in Holyoke is get real strong community support. And so when you have the voices of the community backing your efforts, it really seems to be able to kind of lift the veil a little bit and move things along a little bit quicker.
It's funny you say that. Once the community voices start to get louder and louder, it's the squeaky wheel gets the grease, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But in this case, it's really beneficial because it's getting people off the streets.
It is. And I think conversely too, at the end of the projects, it's always nice to have folks congratulate and welcome and
Right.
say thank you to the folks that
Right.
make all this possible by funding. And so I think there's both, the stick and the carrot. So we get the stick at the beginning and the carrot at the end, and I think it's a successful combination.
We are coming up on our first break. We're here in the InFocus studio at 22 News with Matthew Mainville. He is the executive director of the Holyoke Housing Authority. We'll be right back after this.
This is 22 News in Focus with Patrick Berry.
Welcome back to this edition of In Focus. I'm with Matthew Mainville, the Executive Director of the Holyoke Housing Authority, learning a little bit more about what a housing authority does. Matt, I want to shift gears right now to some photos that you sent me of some projects that have been happening in your world. So this is an absolutely beautiful aerial shot of an area of Holyoke. Tell me what we're looking at here.
This is actually our Hope 6 Churchill project. This was the demolition of the Jackson Parkway, construction of all brand new streets, infrastructure, the construction of 60 homeownership units and 100 rental units.
So this whole area with the trees and the little houses, this was something completely different a few decades ago.
Yeah.
And now it looks like a great little neighborhood.
Oh my God. It's a significant difference. The Jackson Parkway was constructed in 1949. It was barrack style. There were no streets that went through the property. It had a whole host of issues. And so we were lucky enough to get funding from the federal government, match that with some state funding, again, continued the street grid that was in the neighborhood. And we put together what we think is a beautiful combination of rental and home ownership.
It's interesting as we're looking at this, some of the people have their little fenced in backyards. It looks like the American dream right here.
Yeah. And to be honest with you, when we first started this project, there was a huge number of naysayers saying, why are you going to put all that money in
there
the
always
neighborhood?
are.
And this is what this picture here is actually just a very recent picture, and that property's been up for 20 some odd years. And so
Really?
to have that longevity and
I
still
guess-
have that impact on the neighborhood is really pretty outstanding. And
So-
the other thing that's really cool, I don't mean to interrupt, is that this development also spurned on a lot of private investment. Now we have CVS right next door. We have East Hampton Savings Bank. Those things weren't there when Jackson Parkway stood on that property.
I'm glad you said that, because what I don't think a lot of people realize is a little bit of government investment like this. Okay, we need to build some housing. And then the banks, the drugstores, the retailers, the Dunkins, all these folks say, well, there's a whole group of people living there. We need to meet them where they're at. And then they start building. And the next thing you know, you've got yourself, a great little neighborhood with its own little economic engine.
Exactly correct. Yeah, we're excited about what the end result has been. Even the South Street Plaza had vacant storefronts, and now it's occupied. And so that's absolutely correct. And the other thing that we always talk about too is not only the benefit of having something on, but the detriment of having vacant parcels
Right.
in communities and in neighborhoods. And so to be able to be part of this was really exciting.
You talk about the empty parcels and unused parcels. That means there's nothing on the tax books. So now all these homes and these businesses and these families living here are contributing to the taxes of Holyoke, which provides services, your police, your fire, your schools.
Of course. And on top of that, you have sales tax.
Right.
These are people that are consumers that buy goods that have sales tax. And so all in all, it's an economic win for the city, for the neighborhood, and most importantly, for those people that live there.
I'm trying to get my geographic bearings down with this photo. How close is like Race Street and the canals to this area?
This is a few streets up. This is closer to like the Holyoke High School, but
Gotcha.
Race Street is probably 2 or 3 main streets down closer to the river.
But that's still walking distance. And the reason I asked that question is a lot of those old factories down on Race Street, new businesses are moving in there. So housing developments like this create a workforce. So people go, hey, I can move here. Yeah. I can walk to work. I'm saving money on gas. I don't need the bus. It's like a win-win for Holyoke.
1,000%. And, to be honest with you, I think these kind of activities actually spur on additional housing investment as well. Like Wind Construction just put a project together right below the Holyoke Police Department, which is going to be 55 and older.
Perfect.
Huge monetary investment, but also an investment in people in the city of Holyoke. So it's exciting.
Hey, we're in that age bracket, man. All right, let's switch gears to this next one, this ribbon cutting. What are we looking at?
So this is actually our latest project. This is South Holyoke Homes. This is super exciting. This is around the Carlos Vega Park. We were selected by the city to be the developer of this particular activity. And so this is 12 units of affordable rental. Just as an anecdote, for these 12 units, just to highlight the demand that's out there, we received over 1,000 applications for 12 units.
For 12 units.
And so this is a state combination of Holyoke Housing Authority funds, some funds from the city and from the state. And so, as you can see, there's a lot of happy people at this particular ribbon cutting.
Now, so we talked a little bit earlier, the families that come to these, and you got 1,000 requests for these. Were they all Holyoke people? Were those 1,000 requests from everywhere? I mean, God, if I saw a new development like this, I'd put my name in.
Yeah, no, it's they came from everywhere. Large contingent from Holyoke, but certainly surrounding neighborhoods, and even some, like I said earlier, people from the eastern part of the state. This is really super exciting, and we just looked at Jackson Parkway, the Churchill project, but I think this development down here has that same opportunity to spur on public and private investment for sure.
The next photo it's sort of a construction project, which I've heard of these modular type buildings, but here's one in action. Is this in that downtown Holyoke area?
Yeah, this is right directly across. So the activity in South Holyoke centers around the Carlos Vega Park.
Okay, so not far from this one.
Right across the street.
Okay.
And to be honest with you, we were talking about the vacant parcels, and so Carlos Vega Park had vacant parcels on all 4 corners for decades. I'm really happy and proud to say for the first time in, like I said, 20 some odd years, we have housing on all 4 parcels.
That's fantastic.
4 corners. And so this is activity around the construction of 20 home ownership units, first-time home buyers in a neighborhood that is primarily rental, that hasn't seen home ownership in decades or as long as I've been around.
Right. So they may be multi-generational renters.
Exactly.
And not homeowners.
1,000,000%. And it's kind of exciting because one of the folks that is lined up to purchase one of the homes lives at one of our public housing developments and is going to be the first person to move into a home there.
That is fantastic.
So we're excited.
Well, we need to take our next break. We're with Matthew Mainville, the Executive Director of the Holyoke Housing Authority. We will be right back.
This is 22 News in Focus with Patrick Berry.
Welcome back to this edition of In Focus. I'm here with Matthew Mainville. He is the executive director of the Holyoke Housing Authority, and we're talking about public housing, for lack of a better description, in the city of Holyoke, the paper city. You know, Matt, we're of an age group where we've got kids in our 20s, and I look at my kids, and I don't think they're going to be able to buy a house until they're probably 40 years old. Are organizations like yours creating opportunities for the kids just out of college who might have a good job, but they, just find that American dream of owning a home?
Yeah. And so, yes, the short answer is that's who we're kind of hoping to target. Those folks that are freshly out of college, new jobs, but still income eligible, might be first-time home buyers. Because like I was saying during the break, the average cost of a home now is around $318,000 in the Pioneer Valley.
$318,000.
Yeah, and so if you're newly out of college or first-time employed individual, it's a stretch. And so the Holyoke Housing Authority is lucky enough to be a certified first-time home buyer training program.
Okay.
And that's through the state and through the federal government. But we also administer for the city the Buyer's Assistance Program, which allows us to administer out up to $5,000 for down payment and closing costs to folks that might want to become a homeowner. And so with those tools, it's just an opportunity to give someone a leg up on being able to make that American dream for sure.
You know, and you hit the nail on the head. Giving anyone the opportunity and a leg up is crucial. And it's part of what our local governments should be doing is creating those opportunities for whether it's creating jobs, creating housing, or easy transportation, whatever it might be.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will say that we're lucky enough to be in a municipality where our local legislators recognize that, vacant parcels are no good. Let's get housing. Let's get people in buildings. Let's get tax base back. But more importantly, let's create a healthy community and healthy neighborhoods. And so homeownership, I think, helps do that.
During your time with the Housing Authority, I look at now in the year 2025 as things seem to be progressing much faster. I think people are recognizing more now that we need to address some of these issues. Do you see that as well? Do you think, maybe for lack of a better description, it was stagnant for a long time? Maybe our local legislators, Beacon Hill, they didn't really recognize the problem, but now it's, oh my gosh, we really need to address this.
Yeah, over the many, many moons that I've been at the Housing Authority, I hate to tell you how many, but it does seem that way in my mind, is that there was little recognition to the idea that, people need housing. We're having folks leave the state of Massachusetts based off of the fact that there's not, the supply doesn't meet the demand. And so I think there's that absolute recognition that we need to be able to keep talent in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and on a state level and a local level, I think there's some recognition to that.
In Holyoke, in conjunction with what you're working on, creating affordable housing, is there another element working on that or maybe you're working in conjunction with them, working on job creation?
Yeah, we have in the past worked with Holyoke Community College. We also partnered up with Dean Tech to do like training for high school kids that were in their programs there. And then there's a thing called Section 3. So when you're spending federal dollars, there's an effort to make sure that you're hiring local. And so we do that. And those programs are primarily where we find opportunities to spurn off employment opportunities.
We went through a few pictures not too long ago of some of the past projects and some of the current projects. What's on the horizon? Do you have anything that you're working on that you're excited to talk about?
Yeah, we on the development side of the world, we are always trying to formulate a pipeline, and so we do have a city block that we applied for and hope to receive brownfield funds to remediate any kind of dirty dirt that's on the property. And then we're going to start a master planning process. So it's similar in nature to what we're doing in South Holyoke. We'll be undertaking a really robust master planning process. We'll be getting community input, and so look forward to that coming forward. And then we continue to work on a lot of our FSS and MTW activities.
All right, what are the acronyms?
Yeah,
I always stop people.
Sorry. Moving to work, we're a moving to work organization, which provides us some flexibility around state and federal regulations, and then family self-sufficiency. Uh, with this particular program and our Section 8 programs, we've been able to partner with Holyoke Community College. We've been able to partner with Holyoke High School, with Alianza, which is a domestic violence. We've partnered with the Care Center. And so those folks that are either unhoused or underhoused, uh, we are able to help those organizations get stable housing for folks so then they can succeed. Particularly, I always think about myself raising kids, and if you don't have housing, how are you getting your kid to soccer practice? How are you making sure that they're going to be prepared for the SATs?
It's a mental game too. If somebody's got a good home, then their attitude changes. They seem a little bit more positive. They're not in the back of their mind. They're not thinking, "Oh my God, where am I going to be tomorrow? Where am I going to be next week?"
Yeah, I mean, you have better access to foods and to healthcare. I mean, it's a social determinant, and so we're excited to be able to partner with those folks. We partner with Holyoke Community College as well. So if kids are matriculating through an associate's degree, we can help with housing for those folks. And so hopefully we're allowing young people and seniors and veterans an opportunity to succeed.
Do you look at the entire footprint of Holyoke, the entire boundaries of Holyoke? Are you just focused on sort of the old portions of Holyoke in the downtown area?
No, we look at Holyoke in totality. We're always looking for development opportunities, but also, forever scouring where there's a niche where housing is needed, whether that's mobile vouchers to individuals or actual physical properties. No, we try and make sure that we're looking holistically.
Biggest question. How big is your staff? I love these questions because a lot of times people are like, it's me and two others.
Yeah, no, I'm lucky. I've got a really great staff. We're currently staffed up at around 62 individuals.
62. So what do some of those individuals do? I mean, obviously there's the administration side.
Yeah, it varies. We have a whole bunch of maintenance people. Obviously, we want our properties clean and safe. We have a modernization coordinator that makes sure construction goes appropriately and correctly and is being done with good, robust products. We have a whole Section 8 department and admissions and continued occupancy. We want to make sure that we're processing applications correctly. And then we have an inspection department that goes out and inspects units to make sure that landlords are doing the right thing.
And I have to imagine because it's public housing, you have and I know I'm using the wrong term, but a sort of a customer support or homeowner support. People have questions. There's a whole group of your staff.
Yeah, we have a whole family self-sufficiency department that's what they do. If somebody wants to go to school and they need daycare, we're there to help hopefully find that daycare so that they can go to school. We want to make sure that we're supporting folks from good housing right through to, I have the dream of being a homeowner. How can we help you get there? And so that's kind of where we are with our staff.
Matt Mainville, I want to thank you so very much for giving me some of your time. Folks, I hope you learned a little bit more about what a local housing authority does. I know I certainly did. Matt, thank you for all the great work you're doing in Holyoke. And I hope to have you back on the program again soon.
Very cool. Thank you.
Thank you.